Hi and welcome everyone to another SketchUp workshop. Very glad you could all make it, and big welcome to those watching the recording as well. First, a little bit about the workshop formats. We were just having a quick chat there before the session started about people's levels, so a few beginners and maybe intermediate in today's class. So we'll cover quickly the SketchUp interface just to make sure everyone's working on the same type of toolbars. We don't want to spend too long on that, and then I'll touch up on basic skills and concepts as well, so you know the basics of SketchUp and how and why we do things. A couple of tools that I do want to cover today. We'll look at grouping geometry together that we build as we usually do. Very important concept for organising your SketchUp models. But we'll talk about an offset tool today as well, and the follow me tool, which will give you an idea of some of the intermediate to advanced modelling capabilities of SketchUp as well. But I'll actually get you to try those tools, and I think you might surprise yourself at what you can do even at this early stage with those tools. And questions and problem solving. Any particular skills that you want brushing up on or tools that you'd like me to cover, type those into the chat and I'll do my best to address those as we go through the sessions as well. And if you become a regular attendee to these sessions, you know, feel free to plan in advance a couple of things that you'd like to know about, type them in at the start of the session and we'll build in a way to address some of those skills. Just a reminder, which I do each week, some of the free resources that are available to you on the SketchUp website especially. Have you guys used the SketchUp website before? Do you know much about it, and have you used their free learning resources? Maybe put up a green tick or a red cross if you have or haven't. Lots of good stuff on there. They're constantly updating and changing their website, so even these visuals become out of date pretty quickly. But look, there's lots of stuff on there. There's a whole learn section on the website. Even if you just go to sketchup.com and click on the links, you'll be able to find it. But it's learn.sketchup.com, and also their blog, which is at blog.sketchup.com. That's where other SketchUp users will type in questions, answers, problem solving, hints, tips, all that type of thing. When I get stuck on a function or a new thing I haven't done before in SketchUp, that's where I go, to their blog. Lots of users from all around the world swapping free ideas, as there is on the AutoCAD website as well. So make sure you use those. There's a bit of competition out there in the software world these days. They're all trying to offer better support and learning for everybody that uses their software because they're competing for potential users in the marketplace. So don't forget to use those resources. Also, as well, obviously you get your lynda.com access as part of your enrollment to the colleges. That can be accessed through your student hub. There'll be a lynda.com link there. Just make sure you're logged in to the hub or your learning portal first, and it makes the process easier to log into lynda.com. And the SketchUp Essentials training series, they've got them for each year, 2017, 18, 19, etc. So whatever version you're using, and they don't change much, I really recommend that SketchUp Essentials series on lynda.com. You can really learn a huge amount about the software there. And while you've got the free access, take advantage of such good resources. Now, just to check in, does everyone have a 3-button mouse, a left button, right button, and a mouse wheel in the middle? Maybe put up a green tick if you do. Zena, you've been watching lynda.com all day. You superstar. You'll be teaching me things by the end of the term if you spend your time so wisely going forward. Look, there's just so much good stuff on there. So well done. Look, that's how you learn. A lot of self-directed study and sort of delving into those resources is really good as well. Indy, I'm giving you a distance slap on the wrist for saying you're just using your laptop trackpad. I've heard that story before. You're a gun on the trackpad. Fair enough. Fair enough. The 3-button mouse is a good time saver. I'll try and convert you to the righteous path over time. All right, just to go through some of the functionality there, left click is our normal selection tool, right click will bring up shortcut menus, and the scroll wheel is a zooming and orbiting tool that's built in. Once you click and hold the mouse wheel down, you can orbit. A double click on the mouse wheel recenters your view, and when you've got your mouse wheel clicked down and you're dragging, if you click the shift key, it'll go to the pan tool. They're all tools which are available on your large tool set as well, but the mouse wheel saves time, especially in AutoCAD and SketchUp. Quick word on templates. When you're choosing a template, make sure you're selecting millimeters on your as your units. This is the opening page when you go to SketchUp. It's probably defaults to the Learn screen, but you can click on things like template and change that. We can always look at, if anyone's having trouble with units, we can look at how to change those on the hop as well. Because whatever you choose as a template in SketchUp and in most programs can be changed and modified as we go along. All right, toolbar basics. Who's on a Mac and who's on a PC? Just give me a quick indication by typing in which platform you're on. All right, usual mix of about half and half. So just to make sure we're all looking at the same things on our screen, Mac users, go to View, Menu, and Tool Palettes and click on Large Tool Set. And just make sure you can see your large tool set. That'll pop up on the left-hand side of your screen about there. Two big rows of tools. They're the main tools that we use, because this is generally what your screen looks like when you first log in. There's the Getting Started tools at the top. And another way to edit your toolbars on a Mac is to, again, on the View menu, and you can go down to Customize Toolbar, or, as this screenshot shows, you can right-click in an empty part of your top toolbar there, just in the grey space, and choose Customize Toolbar from your drop-down menu. So a couple of things I'd like Mac users to drag into place. PC users will tick a few boxes in a minute. The row of houses, so once you've clicked on Customize Toolbar on a Mac, you'll see this drop-down screen where all the SketchUp tools are available to drag and drop to your top toolbar. So the row of houses there is called Standard Views. I usually drag that to the top right somewhere. Undo and Redo button, you'll probably want them. Drag them to the top left somewhere. And the Layers pull-down menu. That's always a good one to show, and I recommend dragging that to the top center of your screen somewhere. This is a pretty typical toolbar setup for interior design. They're very common tools, but also just know that you can check back in with this at any time and find more tools and explore different functions as you progress with the software as well. Now, showing tray items, basically on a Mac, you can go to your window menu, and under there you'll see a list of headings that you can open up, and you can stack these windows on the right of your screen. So the ones I would tick from that list are Materials, Styles, Layers, and Scenes. So for Mac users, once you've done that, once you've ticked those and they've popped up on the right of your screen, just maybe give me a green tick. You can hide and show these as you go along. Actually, the Materials one will pop up anytime you click on your Paint Bucket tool. Good, people getting that happening quickly, well done. And on PC, very similar, but these items are in what's called the default tray. So if you're on a PC, click on the window menu, go to default tray, and then tick those items. So you can show and hide the tray as well. If you can't see it, you might need to show it. So PC users go to window menu, default tray, and tick Materials, Styles, Layers, and Scenes. Then put up a tick. Good speedy work there, Zena. I can tell you've been practicing on Linda. Well done. All right, and to show the same toolbars on PC, it is the View menu, and you click on Toolbars, and you can untick your Getting Started toolbar because most of that doubles up with the Large tool set. So we want to tick Large tool set, Layers, which will be this pull-down menu, and you just drag them where you need them. So Large tool set, Layers, Standard, which will have Undo and Redo on it, and Views, which is our row of standard views on the house there. So for PC users, just put up a tick if your toolbar's starting to look something like the arrangement on the screenshot here. And then I know you said you were a beginner as well. I am moving fairly quickly here. Yeah, so if you're on PC, Nina, are you on PC or Mac? Just remind me. If you're on PC, they'll be on the standard toolbar. So under View, Toolbars, This will open up your toolbar window. Once you click the standard toolbar and then close that window, you'll find them there. Okay, great. All right, good work, team. So now we'll jump into application sharing and we'll explore some of the functions of SketchUp. Actually, one more thing that we can check while we're all here. Under the window menu in SketchUp, click on Model Info. This is a common one that you'll want to remember. So Window Menu and Model Info. When the Model Info window opens up, just click on Units, which is the last one on the list there, and just check that you've got millimeters and decimal as your format and your millimeters there. There's other things we can do there. We can turn off the after our dimensions if we want. And precision, you can just set that to 0. It is fine as well. That really doesn't matter too much. It just adds a decimal point onto dimensions when you add them. Not a big deal either way, but you've always got control over your units under Window and Model Info. All right, I'll jump into app sharing. It might take a minute to appear on your screen, especially on the recording. I'm aware that it takes a minute to pop up, so I'll just jump into that now. All right, just give me a green tick when you can see my SketchUp window clearly. There's sometimes a little bit of a lag there, but it shouldn't take too long. Good, it's coming up now. Great. Now, if you've got your styles window open on the right of your screen, you'll notice that I've started with the template that was the architectural design template with millimeters, and it comes with a grey background. So really, it doesn't really matter what colour your background is, but under styles, you can choose different ones which make your background and line style, like your edges of your models and everything, look different. So under the default styles, there's certain subheadings there which are worth exploring in your own time, but under default styles, I'll normally click on the simple style or the landscape architecture style to get that nice green background there. You can make our 3D environment with the earth and sky make a bit more sense, really. Okay, so I'll try and keep the orbiting and panning to a minimum because I know there's always a lag on application sharing. So first thing we're going to do is practice some basic skills by building a rectangle, make a floor surface, and we're going to build some walls, and we'll start testing out some different functions of the software on those surfaces. So with the rectangle tool, that's the 4th tool down in your large tool set on the left. As with everything we draw in SketchUp, we click, and I'm going to click on the origin there, the junction of the axes. I'm going to click and drag away up and to the right there, and then in the bottom right of my screen, you'll notice the dimensions changing. And I always exaggerate where I'm going to drag something first, just to see which is going to be the long and the short dimension. So I'm going to make essentially a floor surface here that's going to be 8 meters by 5 meters. I'd like you to do the same thing. So with your rectangle tool, click on the origin, move away, get the rubber band effect, and then type in 8,000, 5,000, and then enter. And put up a green tick once you've done that. Comma is the separator for your sizes when you're doing things like rectangles. So I've typed that into the chat there, 8,000, 5,000, and press enter. Interestingly as well, for beginners, you never need to click in that window down the bottom of the right of the screen for dimensions. Once you've got a command running and you start typing, the text automatically ends up there. Right, so a few green ticks popping up. Just place your tick in the chat section once you've completed the rectangle. And feel free to ask questions as we go along as well, type them in. The next thing we are going to do is to give our floor some thickness. And really this is the procedure I follow when I'm making any room or building to work on, whether it's a whole house or just a kitchen or a bathroom or something like that. I'll always start with the floor surface, and the floor surface may well be more complicated than just a rectangle as well. So the next thing we're going to do is push-pull to make our rectangle thick. I'll push-pull downwards because the 0 point of interior design projects is the finished floor level. So I'm just going to push-pull downwards and type in 300 to give that some thickness, and then hit enter. So give your floor some thickness there by using the push-pull tool. Push-pull, as you'll know, is halfway down the large tool set. That's our main modeling tool. That's the tool that we use to give flat surfaces, any face that's joined by coplanar edges. That's the tool we use to give them some thickness. Now, just to recap on some basic concepts of SketchUp geometry, whenever we build anything, we're building hollow geometry. So if I select the edge of that floor there and hit delete, and also Nina and Lindsay and Jess, just let me know if you're following along with the green tick if you've managed to build these things so far. I'm going to go relatively quickly today, but I'll still try and keep you guys practicing along. And you can also skip any of these steps, and I'll practice a few things which aren't reliant on that thing. Oh, Nina, okay, you can't figure out how to do the green tick. All right, just above, see, we've got the chat section. Then we've got our list of names in the session. Then just above the list of names, we've got, there's 4 buttons. There's like a face, a little torso with a clock next to it, a hand, and then we've got a tick or cross. So it'll be just under, I think, your name in the participants list there. There's the green tick and the red cross, and I should have asked if people were familiar with that. Yeah, you've got it. Well done. Good work. Okay, so as I was saying, SketchUp builds hollow geometry. So essentially this was like a big flat pizza box, this thing. If we accidentally delete an edge, the faces that are reliant on that edge to create the surface will disappear, but we can join that back up just using the line tool, so don't panic if you accidentally delete an edge at any stage. Interestingly, in SketchUp you can also move edges with the move tool. You can't do that in most programs, but you can actually drag and create some interesting geometry with the move tool. Now, just so that you know that, and because you can accidentally move things as well. Right, so the next thing we're going to do once we've built anything, especially when we're going to build more objects, is we're going to group that. We've built our floor there, we're going to group it together, okay? So to do that, there's a range of different ways to select things. You can click and swipe to the left or the right with your mouse button. That has slightly different functionality in terms of how much stuff is selected. So all the connected geometry here, if we triple click on it, that'll select all connected geometry. Then we can right click. Obviously things turn blue once they're selected. So triple click on it to select all the surfaces. Right click and then go to make group. And then put up a tick once you've grouped your object together. The way you can tell if it's grouped is to click on it with your mouse, and if it all turns blue with a single click, a single mouse click, you've grouped that object. And when we're selecting things, we're using the select tool, the arrow which is top left of the large tool set. How's everybody going with that one? Just put up a tick once you've grouped it. If you're having trouble with the triple click, you can always use different ways to select things. I don't want to select Stacey there in my selection, so if I wanted to just select the slab without her, I might do a right swipe, so a swipe to the right, a swipe to the right, but just miss out part of Stacey because a right swipe will select whole objects within that frame. You can deselect it, yes, Jess, after that, by just clicking somewhere else in your 3D window. Yes, once it's been built and you've tested that it's a group, you don't need it selected, you can select other things or deselect it. So, now the other thing I'd like you to do is to practice with the move tool. So to do that, we can move the human figure. I've got Stacey standing here. You may have her or one of the other SketchUp characters. Some people delete the human figure. I tend to keep it there for scale to sort of get a logical point of scale, whether I'm drawing things at a sensible size. Otherwise, you've just got empty 3D space. And we've got someone else joining here, CJ. Welcome to the session. We're up and running already. Let me know what your standard is for SketchUp and which platform you're using. CJ, so just type in Mac or PC and type in the level you see yourself as a SketchUp user. We've gone through some basics already. We're going to be moving into a bit more intermediate territory. So once you've selected your human figure there, you can move them out of the way. Now when you're moving anything, the first click, and it's prompting you down the bottom left of your screen in the status bar there, it's telling you to pick 2 points to move. So that will be a starting point and an end point. And we can move them out of the way. Always be careful to move, something with a sensible starting point and end point. Zena, I think if you go to Window and Components, or Window Default Tray and Components, you should be able to then click on the house symbol or in model from the pull-down list, whichever is easier. So Window and Components, or Window Default Tray and Components. Then you want to find the in model section, and all components that are in your model, you should be able to drag them back into your screen. So I can have multiple Stacys, like the matrix. If I don't want her there, I can, whichever one's selected, I can hit delete. Yeah, I always just think it's good to handy to have a human figure just for scale, like I've said. All right, and Zena, just let me know if you managed to resurrect your human figure. The next tool, now that we've grouped our floor together, we can start working with that and do some other things. Now, I'm going to use the Offset tool next. Offset is a bit over halfway down on the right side of your... good question there, Nina. Okay, yeah, we can address that before we go forward, actually. How do you know if the person is actually standing on the ground and not in the air? It's one of the reasons why I actually build a floor surface there. As I just moved Stacey back in there. Now, this is a good little segue, actually. Let's have a look at how we use our standard views toolbar, okay? We showed this earlier, our toolbar. So if I click on front view here, that'll essentially give us a nice front view of our model. Now we're viewing our model in perspective at the moment. It's actually a really good question, Nina, so thank you for asking that one. Now another way we can get a more accurate view here, we're viewing our model in perspective, but we can swap under our camera menu up the top of the screen. You can swap between parallel projection and perspective. So parallel projection will give us more like accurate elevations and plan views. So I'd like everyone to swap from perspective to parallel projection under your camera menu and put up a green tick if you've managed to do that, managed to modify the view. Well done. Right, now click on your standard views here, say top view. You'll see that the person is just a two-dimensional thing in the top view there, which is fine. You can also quickly create an isometric view. If you're in parallel projection and you click on the ISO button, which is the 3D house there, that's an accurate isometric, okay? So get used to using your standard views. If I go back to the front view there, I can zoom right in. Now when you're zooming in with the mouse wheel, you want to hold your cursor right where you want it to zoom into. Wherever the mouse is, that's the center of the zoom. It's pretty easy to get lost in 3D space otherwise. If you do get lost in space, in 3D space, the zoom extents button near the bottom left of the large tool set there, the magnifying glass with the arrows coming out from it, that will get you back to everything that's been modeled so far. So if I zoom right in there, I can see that Stacey's foot is just touching the floor. Her nice little red Converse boots there. So, Nina, does that fully answer your question, and hopefully that information was useful to everybody else as well. Navigating in 3D space and moving things is really important. Now, if Stacey, for instance, was not on the ground, we'd also be able to see that. Now, because she's got curved shoes, I have to be very careful with selecting a point that's right on the bottom there. So if she was floating in space slightly, which is very easy to happen, I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell in that view. It looks fine, doesn't it? So when I go back to my front view, I can then see that it's not sitting on the ground. I've zoomed right in. Really, you need to zoom a lot when it comes to placing things accurately. And then I can move Stacey back down until I get the line that I want. Now that's moved her to the edge there of our surface, but that's fine. That was my reference point. So she's sitting right on the edge there. Now, when you're moving anything, again, if I wanted to move her back into the room, I would, using my move tool, start with a point that I know is on the floor, my starting point, and then the end point also on the floor. It's telling me it's on that face. So starting points and end points for the move tool, both equally important. So we can swap back now from parallel projection to perspective, but it's actually a really good thing to know that you can swap between those two modes of viewing your model, because sometimes really fine detail in SketchUp is easier to add in that parallel projection mode. It just becomes an easier way to view your model. Sometimes when you zoom right in on your SketchUp geometry as well, it'll start disappearing as it becomes too close to the camera. Jumping between parallel and perspective often sorts that out as well. Now, I want to demonstrate the offset tool today. Offset's very handy for doing things like walls or other objects. So, yes, Nina, very good point. It does take a bit of practice, but that's why we're here, and this is one of the steps along that path to getting all the practice that you need. And look, I really recommend in your own time, choosing a room, maybe in your house or a little project, even just do a little cabin, little holiday cabin type thing, and just model. Just give yourself a little project that's not linked to any deadlines, and really experiment, play around with the software and test yourself out, and just think, okay, if I'm going to build this, how would I do that? Let me try out some tools. Really, self-directed learning and experimentation with 3D software is where you'll make the biggest strides, but we'll get you up and running with the basic skills as well. So the offset tool, we're going to make some walls here. So our floors group together, so I'm going to actually start with another rectangle, and I'd like you to do the same. So we're going to do another rectangle. We're going to trace over our floor. You might get a funny shimmer going on those surfaces, so draw another rectangle, put up a green tick once you've done that. That's now a flat surface sitting right on top of our floor, so it's kind of competing. Those two faces are competing with each other, so we'll fix that in a minute. So just let me know once you've done that. Good work. That wouldn't work if the floor wasn't grouped. It would just become a part of that other geometry if it wasn't grouped together. That's why grouping is so important. Now we're going to use the offset tool. Yeah, just the rectangle tool, Jess, yes. I mean, you could trace it with the pencil tool as well, but yes, we just did another rectangle straight over the top of the floor there, and that'll all make sense in a minute. Normally I wouldn't do that to create a floor finish. I would paste a material onto it, but we'll see what's happening here in a sec. So we're going to click on the offset tool, hover over an edge, not an end point or a midpoint, but just on the edge. Sometimes you've got to sit just inside or just near the edge to actually get the little message saying on edge. I'm going to click and release with my mouse, then start moving inwards again. We'll see the rubber band effect, and I'm going to type in a distance of 200. 200, and then enter. So use the offset tool, try that out now, and see if you can offset that extra rectangle line that we drew. Offset it inwards as you're dragging inwards, getting that rubber band effect. Type in 200 and hit enter. You should see a nice parallel line. That's going to be the base of our walls, essentially. That's why we're doing this. Good speedy work there, Zena. Jess, Indy, Lindsay, Nina, just let me know how you're going. A few ticks popping up, well done. Great. Probably these are new tools for many of you, so well done. Now, what we've got is we've divided that rectangle into two surfaces. We've got a surface that's going to be the base of our floor. And we've got this internal surface here. We don't need that anymore. We actually don't want to create faces that compete with each other on exactly the same plane. So we're going to click in the middle rectangle and just hit delete. Okay, so that just takes us back to the standard floor that we had before. And now we've got this outside perimeter surface that we're going to do something with. Okay, Zena, you're saying when we're drawing a room, do we need to specify how thick our wall cavities are? Yeah, this is how we do it. Yeah, and I don't often build the various layers of a wall, like the bricks on the outside and the plasterboard on the inside. You can go into as much detail as you like, but yes, this is our wall thickness. Okay, and we'll look at how we can adjust those in a minute as well. So we're just creating a basic 200mm wall around the outside. So delete the middle flat part of the rectangle. If you haven't already, don't delete your other main floor object. If you accidentally do that, just hit undo. Now, with our push-pull tool, we're going to hover over that little train track line around the outside, click and release, move our mouse upwards, and we can type in a height. I'm going to do 2400 for this one and hit enter. So have a go at doing that with the push-pull tool. Click on the surface that we created around the edge, push-pull up to a height, could be 2400, 2700, some kind of standard wall height, and hit enter and put up a green tick once you've done that. And really this is the method that I use when I'm creating a big building, a complex building. It wouldn't matter if it was a 10-story hotel or just a little cabin. I would always do it the same way. Start with a good solid floor surface and then add perimeter walls and then start building up the information from there. As we go, we group things together, so we will actually group our walls as well. And we can always come back and add doors and windows into our walls later. We might do that a little bit later, so very well done, team. Now, we'll actually group our walls together now. Even though we haven't added doors or windows yet, we can do that later. So again, it's a triple click and right click, then make group. So group your walls together, put up a green tick once you've done that, and then we're going to explore another new tool actually, which you will find to be a handy one over time. It gives us a bit more control over how we view our model. So I'll just wait till a few more ticks pop up there for grouping our walls together. It's really important for grouping things so that they don't stick together and so we don't accidentally delete edges later. So my workflow is always create an object, group it, and then create the next object and group that. Then in a minute we'll actually separate them onto layers as well. When we want to modify any group, we just need to double click on it. So say I wanted this end wall here to be 100mm instead of 200mm. I just double click on the group, I can get my push-pull tool, and I can adjust the thickness of that wall in any direction that I want. So if I wanted to make that one 100 instead of 200, that's fine. Groups are always modifiable by clicking on them. Then how do we change our background color? That's under styles. So remember we were viewing styles before under window and styles, or window default tray and styles if you're on PC. So just make sure styles is ticked under your window menu, and then you can expand and collapse the styles dialog box on the right. And I've just chosen one of the default styles. There's many different menus of styles there. I'd stick to the default ones for now, and you can just choose a style with the background color that you want. Sometimes we want to see a white background because for doing construction documentation, or sometimes we want to view our model in wireframe so we can actually see the bones, the skeleton. So styles are really useful. Don't swap between them too quickly because actually that uses a lot of memory on your computer. You can crash, you can stall the software if you jump between them too quickly. I'll jump back to the simple style there. All right, now everyone's grouped their walls together. Very, very well done. Now, next thing we're going to do, this is a bit inconvenient, isn't it? Because we can't see inside our room. There's a range of different ways that we can alter this. The tool I want to use for this today is the section plane tool. The very last tool on the bottom right of your large tool set is the section tool. You'll recognize that symbol from your technical drawing subjects if you've been paying attention. It's a little section marker head, okay? So we click on the section plane tool, we can create a section plane that's going to create a big slice through our model. Now, wherever you hold it on your model, it will orient to those particular faces, and you can change that using your arrow keys on your keyboard as well. With most functions in SketchUp, if you tap your arrow keys, it will define a direction. So now I'm just going to hover over that front face, and I'm going to click with the section plane tool, and an orange frame is going to come up there. Then I'm going to move that frame. So essentially that's my slice, that's my section line. I'm going to move it back just a little bit with the move tool. So have a go at doing that. First of all, click on the section plane tool, then click on the front wall. That'll create a slice, then you can move that slice further back into the model. Just a little bit, we just want to be able to see into the room, and then put up a tick once you've done that. It's possible to create as many sections as you like. You can animate between sections and do awesome fly-throughs and cutaways of buildings. There's lots of good things you can do with sections, especially for animating complex building structures and showing inside and out of the structure. There's good videos on that. If you just look up the section tool on the YouTube channel for SketchUp, it's under their training series. So if you look up SketchUp training series section tool, it'll show you how to animate sections and do awesome stuff. Right, well done. Now, the thing that you'll find, the orange frame there, that's our plane of reference. That's showing us where the slice is. You'll see the section marker heads there at the end, same as you do on a technical drawing. We don't always want to see that frame. It kind of gets in the way, and it adds a bit of a foggy screen in front of that surface. So under our view menu, we can, okay, your wall just goes black. Yeah, that's in either styles. Under your styles, you can modify that. We'll look at that in a sec. It doesn't matter if your walls are showing filled in black. That's something you can change. But it's a good point, Jess, so we'll look at that one in a minute. Under your view menu, you've got total control over what you see with your sections, okay? So I can turn off the section cut itself. I can just hide the cut, or I can keep the cut visible and just hide the plane. So all this is under view menu. So what I'd like you to do is just to hide the section planes. So we'll keep our cut there. We're just hiding that plane so we can see into the building, and then put up a green tick if you manage to hide your section plane. Now, interestingly enough, anything that we draw in front of that section plane, like out here in space, is going to be hidden. It's going to be behind that plane. So we'll look at the implications of that in a minute. Okay, good work, everybody. Now, Jess, you mentioned your walls were filled in there. That's pretty normal. Whichever style you've got selected in your styles window, if you click on edit, in that edit window we can somewhere modify our section settings. On the last setting there, the modeling setting, you can activate section fill or not. So this is just showing dark grey for this one. So you can change that to whatever you want under section fill in your styles there. You can also change the way section lines display. If I didn't want my section lines on the edge to be so thick there, I could make them, well, let's just change the color of the section lines, for instance, to show what it would look like if I change that one. In fact, it's not liking me changing it for some reason. There we go. Now I've got a green section line there. So you can change the section fill like that. That was showing black, or normally a grey, like that is sort of the default. But I'm going to leave my section lines as black for now as well. So just know that anything you see on your screen in terms of colours and that type of thing, it's all under styles. So if you dive into your style and click edit, start searching around for which items you can modify, then you'll change the visual display on your screen. Alright, now another thing I would like to do a little bit of practice with today is just move, copy and rotate, some basic tools for modifying things that you build. So we'll test out a couple of things here at the same time. So what I'd like you to do is just build a box on the floor there somewhere. We'll actually make that box into a component in a minute as well. So draw just a box, doesn't matter what size, and triple click on it, right click, and go to make component this time and give that component a name. I'll call this one box 1. And then put up a green tick once you've done that. So groups and components are similar but a little bit different. So make the box into a component, give it a name. Well done. So if this was a more complex object like a chair, something like that, it's very handy when we put in 8 dining chairs or something like that, that when we modify that component, all of the ones that we've copied around will change in the same way. So if we change the colour, the material, the height, etc., they'll all change. So groups stay isolated. They're grouped together, but there's only one of them. For instance, components are useful when you're going to make 5 or 10 of something and you want to be able to change them in multiple numbers at the same time. Right, so with the Move tool, I'd like you to click on the Move tool. Make sure your box is selected first. So when we have our Move tool selected, if we press Control or Option on our keyboard, just after we've clicked the Move tool, it gets a little plus symbol next to the cursor, and we can click the starting point. I'm going to choose an end point, a logical point, and move that away and click a second point to make a copy. Okay, so have a go at doing that to copy the box that you created. The procedure was to select it, click on the Move tool, Control if you're on a PC, or Option on a Mac, so Control or Option brings up the copy function, click a starting point, ideally on the floor, move it away, and click another one. You'll notice that when you move anything, you're being guided by default to those axis directions, red, green and blue. You can move things in different directions as well, but it's very important to make sure that if you want items to be on the floor, make sure it's telling you that it's on the surface first. So put up a green tick if you've managed to copy your box. Most programs have a copy tool. With SketchUp, it's built into the Move tool, but you have to hit Control or Option. Right, so after you've copied something, you can create multiple copies very quickly by just typing in yours just moves down the line. So that's just, you're on a Mac. Make sure it's the Option key, and make sure you see the little plus pop up next to your cursor before you click and move it. So it'll be your Option key, which is similar, I think, position to where the Control key is on the PC. So after you've copied something, you can just type in a multiple like x3 and then enter, and you can create multiples. And it doesn't matter if you type in x3 or 3x, it just means times 3. It'll triple that copy, or if you type in x6 or whatever, it'll make multiple copies. So just let me know if you're getting on well with that. So after you've done that copy, guys, try typing in x3 and see if you can multiply that copy out. If you haven't done anything after copying it, it just refers to the last copy, command. So sometimes you might need to go back and copy it again to reinstate the copy function, but you should be able to create a multiple copy there, and just let me know if you've had some success with that. It's a good one to practice in your own time. Copy tool and multiple copies. It's called array when you make multiple copies. Now remember that we made this object into a component. So what's the benefit of using components as opposed to groups? One of the things is that once we modify one, and I can just see a couple of comments coming in here. The multiple copy thing may not have worked first go. No luck with multiple copies. A good thing to do, you can try it again. If I just delete my extra copies here, you can actually delete the one that you created originally. Do the copy again. So just click a starting point and an end point, then type in X3, enter, whatever number you want. So you may need to just do that copy again. Once you've done the first copy, the next thing you type in is X3 or X4, whatever. It should create the multiples. But it's one to practice in your own time. If it doesn't work first go, we're getting into some more advanced territory here, but I think you guys have been doing very well. So the more we can fit into this session, the better. You'll always have a few takeaways to practice with in your own time, I think. Now, we made a component, this box, remember? So if we double click on a component and edit that, I'd like you to do this. So change the height of your component, for instance, and see what happens to the other one or other ones that you've created. See if it actually changes all of them, because that's the benefit of a component. Once you've named it, it sits in the components window in SketchUp, where Stacy was before, where we found the human figure, and it becomes like a library object. So the next thing I'd like you to do is add a material to it. And see if that pops up on all the copies as well. So modify one of your boxes, whether you've got 2 or 3 or 4 on the screen, and put up a green tick if that changes the other instances of that component. Yeah, practice the multiple ones later if you want, Jess, but just make sure you can copy it once, if you can do that. So move tool with option key if you're on the Mac, or control on the PC. A few people are having some success there. I know I'm moving fairly quickly. Yeah, good question, Zena. So what I did to change the color, double click on the object. It's better to double click on something and activate each face so that you can add a color. So once you've double clicked on your box, go up to the second from the top left button on your large tool set. That's the paint bucket tool. That's how we apply materials. As soon as you click on the paint bucket tool, it should bring up your materials window in the tray anyway. And from there, you've got all sorts of different materials and colors. I've just chosen some colors here. There's lots of subheadings available in there, and then put a color onto a particular face. Now you can get as creative as you want and add lots of colors. You can also check out the other types of materials that are in there, and you can start playing around with those in your own time, see what you can create. But just let me know if you've managed to apply a material. What I want to see is if your components are changing in multiples. Zena, that's the next chapter in lynda.com. Well, it's a good one. If you've been waiting all day to learn that, well, you just made my day by helping me to fill in that little gap for you there. All right, so we've covered a fair bit of ground already. We've got a few minutes left, so I'd like to try out one more tool. It's a little bit more complicated than some of the others. So what we might do for this one is I'll change my screen angle a little bit, maybe more of an isometric angle like that. I'm going to switch off my section cut temporarily. Okay, so I'm going to undo that section cut for now. It's always easy to reinstate that under the view menu, and remember that we can turn on the section plane anytime. The benefit of being able to see your section planes is you can double click on them to reactivate them, or double click on them to deactivate them. Right, so I unchecked the section cuts in the view menu, so I want to work on the ground out here. Okay, so untick your section cuts, and you should be able to see the whole box there again. Obviously, when you're working with a whole building, sections are very useful just to be able to see inside the building, and you can create as many sections as you want. I can, normally you'd create one from each major angle, sort of like that, and that allows you to view your model from view into your rooms from different angles. Right, so one more little bit of complex but very enjoyable geometry for SketchUp for today, and we'll finish the lesson with that, and you can go away and do a bit of practice on this tool in your own time. Just want you to grab the line tool, the pencil, from the third on the left column from the top in your large tool set. Just draw a line. I'm going to start with the red axis there. Click and draw a line there. Actually, I'm going to get rid of those section planes as well. Just view section planes, you can hide them. And what I'd like you to do is draw a bit of a zigzag type path on the ground there. Try and keep the lines all flat on the ground by following the axes, the red, green and blue axes. Just draw a couple of lines joined together on the ground and put up a green tick once you've done that. We're creating a path here, and we're going to move some geometry along this path. All right, well done. Now, since we're on a roll here, let's try out one more tool. The two-point arc tool is on the right column of the large tool set. It's the one that's a half circle. If you hover over it, it'll say two-point arc. Now, you can actually create fillets or curves on some of your corners using the two-point arc. Now, when you're using this tool, you click on one edge, move to the other edge. It'll change color when it's sort of aligning in various ways to the other geometry. So when it goes pink, that's a good sign. It means it's tangent to the other edge, so it's meeting it smoothly as a quarter of a circle. Okay, so I'm going to double click now, 1, 2, as my second click with the arc tool. So have a go at doing that. The procedure was click on the two-point arc tool, click on one of your lines, move slowly over to the other line, and move along until the arc turns pink, and you'll get a little message saying tangent to edge. Then if you double click, it should remove the outside corner, okay, and put up a green tick if you've done that. If it just changes the corner and leaves the corner sticking out, that's fine. You can delete the extra bit of the corner with the eraser tool if it doesn't trim it first go. All right. Good work. Lots of ticks coming up now. Okay, now I'm going to click on the circle tool. I'd like you to do the same thing. Now, by default, circles and shapes and polygons and things will want to draw flat on the ground. If you tap your arrow keys, the up, down, left, right keys on your keyboard, you're going to get the orientation of the circle to change. So I want my circle to be 90 degrees to that path. So it's going to essentially create like a pipe. Okay, so I did that when the circle went red. That was the right axis for the direction I was drawing in. So with the circle tool, you can tap up, down, left, right to change the orientation of the circle to draw a circle on any angle that you want. So draw a circle with the center point of the circle on the end of the line you created. And just make that circle any size you want, not too big, and put up a green tick if you've got essentially a circle that is sitting at 90 degrees to the main line that you created there. And we're getting into some complex territory here, so anyone who's successfully doing this is doing very well. I'm not going slowly with this. And the arrow keys are a good one to remember whenever you're doing things in SketchUp. They will guide you to certain directions. So if you tap them on your keyboard, whatever you're drawing will change colour, and it'll change direction to show you which axis it's aligning to. It gives you more control over your geometry. Alright, so now we've got a path there, and it doesn't matter what your path looks like as long as it's a couple of connected lines or arcs. And we've got a circle on one end of that. Okay, so the tool we're going to use here to turn this into some more complex geometry is called the Follow Me tool. So it follows a path along with a selected face. Okay, so the face and the path should be perpendicular to each other, which they are on the screen here. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select the segments of my path here. You can do that by a swipe with your mouse. A left swipe will select anything that crosses, or you can select them individually with a single click and hold down the Shift key, just select all different segments there. So we want to select all the parts of that line. That's going to be our path. Then I'm going to click on the Follow Me tool. Bottom left of my screen, it's prompting me to select a face to extrude. I click on that face and it actually drags that face along that path. So give that a go. I think we just squeezed this in before the top of the hour. It is indeed, Zena. Look, it's great. The more you use it, the more you'll realise what can be done. It seems, sometimes the geometry seems a bit basic at the start, but with different combinations of tools, you can create really complex and organic geometry. And there's also a lot of free plugins available online that you can get to do some really wacky architectural features. Nina, gold star for getting that working. Anyone else who's got it working, put up a green tick. The procedure was, we selected the path first, then we clicked on the Follow Me tool, then clicked on the face. Now, you can also just use the tool with nothing selected, click on the Follow Me tool, and I can drag it along that path as well. But it's a bit more clumpy, and sometimes it gets stuck on the corners there. It's getting a little bit stuck there. There we go. So, very handy for things like skirting boards, cornices, architectural balustrades, piping, downpipes, you know, that type of thing. Really no end of potential to the Follow Me tool. And there's a very, very good video on the SketchUp YouTube channel and on lynda.com for the Follow Me tool. You'll see the potential for any type of complex profile that you want to create to go along a path. Yeah, absolutely. Any shape you want, Nina, and we will wrap up the session in just a minute, but it's a good question. You can create any complex geometry that you want as your profile. It can be literally anything. And then, so what I'm going to do is just use the eraser tool, the pink tool at the top here, to get rid of any bits that I don't want of that geometry. And we can get more complex than that. The key is drawing on a surface that's perpendicular to your path. That's the key. And then we can use the Follow Me tool to bring that along there. I'm doing that the manual way, the hard way. So yes, you can do that. Now, if you're creating really complex geometry, what I suggest doing as a starting point is sometimes just giving yourself a surface to draw on, especially if it's a vertical surface. So sometimes I'll create a box and then just get rid of some of the faces there. Now, we haven't been focusing much on accuracy today, but I would, if I was going to do a really complex profile, I would use my tape measure tool, measure some, some key points, and then I can create any profile. It really is just about taking the time to draw all those segments and be accurate. So I would normally be working to predetermined dimensions that I'd have from next to me on a sketch or something like that. Get rid of any geometry that we don't need there. So now we've created a profile of some sort. So I created the profile first this time. Now I can create any path that I want. I'll be careful to stay on my axes there. We don't need curved corners all the time. We can even push this one. Let's see what happens if we go straight up in the air there. This is a more complex path. I've even gone on a different plane there. I don't expect you to be working along with this, but I just want to show you what it can do. Now I might delete my guidelines. We're going 2 minutes over here, but this will give you an idea of the potential of this tool. I'll just finish selecting the path using the Shift key there. So I've selected the path. Now I'm going to click on the tool. It's prompting me to select a face. Boom. So really, your geometry can get very complex. There's things that it won't do if it crosses over each other and gets just really crazy, but if you're creating good, sensible profiles that you would do as part of a building. And look, you can do freeform shapes in SketchUp as well. That's for another day. But I think you can see there the potential of that tool, something to get excited about, hopefully. And can I just say, very, very, very well done, team, to even remotely keep up with the pace there. I didn't slow up for you guys. I didn't have any mercy, even though I know a few of you are new. Look, great work, and hopefully you learned a fair bit. We'll just quickly recap on what we covered today to close out the session. We looked at creating a floor and grouping it. We didn't get to layers today. We can do that on another workshop. We created our walls. We grouped them together. We made a component. We copied it. We did multiple copies. If you didn't get that one right, just practice with that one a bit in your own time. We added some materials to those components. Then we played around with the section tool to change how we view our model. We also were looking at the standard views toolbar to swap between views, and I know the changes between views on the recording do lag a bit, so I won't do too much more of that. And then we covered the Follow Me tool as well. The offset tool was the one we used for the wall. So that's a huge amount of territory to get through in one lesson. I don't expect you to remember it all in one go, but have a bit of practice in your own time. Look at the free resources on the SketchUp website, lynda.com, and the SketchUp YouTube channel itself is a good one to follow. They add new videos there, and there's already a lot of good ones that they make and put out every couple of years. So thank you for your time and attention. It was a pleasure to have you all here. Hopefully you learned something from it. Get some practice in your own time. A few of you I'll be seeing in classes this week, and a few of you I won't. And join us again on a subsequent Wednesday for more SketchUp fun and games. Yeah, I'll stop the recording in a sec, Indy, and you can ask a question for sure. Okay, thanks everyone for your time, and we'll see you in the next workshop.